Dad, I'm proud to know you. Thank you so much. I am George the Shoeman, and I turn used shoes into drinking water. And my motto is, I don't want your money, I want your soul. Your shoe soul, that is. Jesus turned the water into wine. I turn shoes into water. He walked on the water, but I drink his wine. Now that's funny even in a Baptist church. You got to laugh at an old man's jokes. You understand that. In fact, if you laugh at an old man's jokes, you know what? If he could find one of these, he would throw you a mint. There you go. All right. This morning I get to talk to you about things that I've done. By the way, I ought to tell you what I do, and then I'm going to talk to you about finding your voice. But every year I collect about 1 million pounds of shoes. And then I ship them to South America where people do not have shoes and they cannot afford to buy new shoes, but they buy these shoes from street vendors for pennies on the dollar. And then I take the revenue that's produced from that and I buy drilling equipment and water purification systems, and I drill for water in Kenya and in Haiti. And just this spring, we shipped a drilling rig to Haiti that will provide water in the next 12 months for an estimated 50,000 people. And there you go. Over the lifetime of that rig, it should provide water for about 500,000 people. Now, how do I tell you how I got started doing this? Well, it started a long time ago. Before a person can have a public victory, he first has to have a private victory. And I began to have a series of epiphanies a long time ago, visions that you might say. When Moses in chapter 3 saw the burning bush, he went just to inquire, what is this sight? And over a period of, I've got to explain providence and a calling to you. Providence is an invisible hand, and he's shuffling a deck of cards. And then he takes one of those cards, and it's a day of your life, and he presents it to you. And he says, will you play this card? And if you play the card, you continue with the game. And the next day, another card is played, and pretty soon you have a hand that has been played. And God asks you, will you play this hand? And if you will play the hand, you get another card. But if you stop and say, no, I will not do this, your life becomes stagnant and mired. Now, I began to have my first epiphany that God wanted to use me sometime. I have known all my life that there was a calling on my life. I've known that, yes, I'm supposed to be a father, provide for my children. I knew I was supposed to be a husband, provide for my wife. I was supposed to work and provide a living. But God also had something else he wanted me to do. You know, everything that is invented, everybody here, you have a purpose. Everything in life has, even a mosquito has a purpose for existence. I hate mosquitoes. And my neighbor's yard used to be infested with mosquitoes. And so you know what he did? He built a martin's nest, because the best purpose of a mosquito is to be found in the belly of a martin. So you see, everything has a purpose, and your life has a purpose that I cannot define, and my life has a purpose. But God began to reveal his will for me in a very slow manner. And the first big revelation that I had was on October the 12th, 1967 in Vietnam. I was in 1st Battalion, 1st Marine Division, Charlie Company. We are in Operation Medina, a search and destroy in triple jungle canopy, and we get lost. We can't get to our destination. We find a trail. And in jungle warfare, you never take a trail because someone has been there and they're going to be waiting on that trail. But we were behind and we were desperate. So we took this trail for just 100 feet. And suddenly machine guns blurred in front of me and on the side. And 13 people were killed directly in front of me. And the noise was so loud, I had never heard anything like this in all of my life. And I had never experienced death like this in all of my life. And someone knocked me down because I was somewhat stunned. And then my orders became to take the top of the hill. Well, most of the battle was at the bottom of the hill on this trail. And I took the top of the hill with very little resistance, and I was placed in a pocket of providence. The card that God gave to me that day took me out of the immediate danger and put me where I could oversee the battle. And then while I was on that hill, we were out of water. My tongue swelled up like cotton. I couldn't get spit in my mouth. And it was so dark I could not see the hand in front of my face. At the bottom of the hill, I could hear my company being overrun, and they were saying, "Come, help us, help us." And I could see the machine guns blaring. I saw the grenades explode, and I heard our people crying, and I wanted to go help them, but my orders were to stay right here, lest we be completely surrounded. Well, Delta Company came in. They weren't supposed to. They were ordered to wait. But the CO said, transmission garbled. And so Delta Company came in to save the day for us. Thank God for smart commanders. And then a funny thing happened. Even in the middle of a war, funny things can happen. Delta Company and our company was trying to gather up. We were trying to, and we had no passwords. And the enemy could imitate our voices. And so someone said, "Who won the World Series?" And I said, "Who's got a newspaper?" And some wag said, "Jack Buck just announced that the St. Louis Cardinals won the World Series." And the whole place stood up. I mean, everybody stood up and applauded, and the enemy was totally confused. Well, Delta Company came in, and I dug in my foxhole. I had another Marine there. All the firing stopped at midnight. And then as hot as it was, it began to rain. And I could not get out of my foxhole, because if I get out of my foxhole, then I'm not going to be where I'm supposed to be, and my own people will shoot me. So I sleep in a hole full of water. And by the way, on that hill, I had a vision, a sensation, a revelation, an epiphany. In the intuitive thing that was going on, God was saying, "George, you've just had a look at hell, and that is the direction that you are going." Now, I did not know that hell was a place of outer darkness where there was wailing and gnashing of teeth, but that's what I had seen, and I was somewhat afraid. So now I'm in this hole full of water, and it rains, and I sleep in a hole full of water, and it's so cold, I urinate down my leg trying to get warm, and it didn't work. In the morning, I told the Marine there by me, I said, "Don't drink the water." He said, "I did the same thing." Well, that was Friday the 13th, and we began to the CBs. I love CBs. They rappelled down ropes, came in, cut the forest down, the wilderness, and we evacuated the dead. 134 Marines were killed on that hill that night. We began to evacuate our wounded and our dead. On the 14th of October, 1967, I have one boot off and I'm wringing out my sock, trying to keep my feet in good shape. And I'm ordered to go to the bottom of the hill on a water detail. And I'm cussing and carrying on, and Corporal Bice says, "George, I'll go for you." I said, "You don't have to do that. There's just some things that a Marine's got to cuss about. And we are very good at it, too." And before I could get up, Corporal Bice went in my place, and he was hit in the chest with a rocket. And all we found left was his head and his boots. Moses went to the burning bush. He was curious. What did this burning bush mean? He was having a private revelation. He was having a private victory that would later on lead to his voice, "Let my people go." And when Corporal Bice did not come back, I went to look for him, and I looked, and I looked, and I found his head, and then I found his boots with his name written on his boots. And intuitively, I queried into this sight, and I understood. God was saying to me through the card that he had played to me that day with an invisible hand that, "George, I have a work for you to do in your old age." And what am I doing now? I'm going for the boots, and I'm going for the water. God has brought me full circle in my life. I had a private victory, which would later lead to a public victory. And Moses, when he went to the burning bush, didn't know that he was going to meet God. But in that burning bush experience in Exodus chapter 3, he peered into the bush, and the voice said, "Stop, take off your shoes, for the ground that you are walking on is holy ground." Daniel Webster said, "If you write your life on tablets of granite, weather will erode it. If you write your life on brass, man will defame it. But if you write your life on the souls of men, you will walk into eternity. But you must take off your shoes, for you are walking on holy ground." And God says for us to lay up for ourselves treasure in heaven, where rust does not corrupt and thief does not break through and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And God was saying, "George, I'm going to teach you to write your life on the hearts of individuals." Well, I had that first little revelation. Now, how in the world is it going to happen? Moses is told to go before Pharaoh. Moses spent the first 40 years in his life thinking he was someone, because he was an Israelite that was raised in the Pharaoh's household by his own mother under providential protection. And the Pharaoh the Egyptians were supposed to kill all the 2-year-old babies and under, which qualified Moses. But the Pharaoh paid for the mother's food and housing, paid for the diaper bill, the education bill, the clothes, and Moses was somebody. He spent the first 40 years of his life thinking, "I'm somebody." And then he saw an Israelite and an Egyptian get into a battle, and Moses killed the Egyptian. And the next day he saw who did I just get shot at? You know, I did get shot in Vietnam. I forgot the first rule of combat: duck. That was supposed to be funny, folks. Anyway, Moses killed the Egyptian, and they said, "Are you going to kill the Israelites now?" And so Moses spent the next 40 years of his life learning that he was a nobody. He was just a shepherd. And then God appeared to a nobody and gave him a revelation, an epiphany, a vision. And then Moses developed what is called voice. The voice of Moses became, "Let my people go." And he had to go before Pharaoh, the highest man in the kingdom, the man who held the keys of death and the keys of slavery. And he has to go before this giant man. Not only that, but he has to go before the church, the people of Israel, and say, "I'm going to take you out of Egypt and take you all the way to the promised land." And people are going to say, "You're going to do what?" "Right. Yeah. Okay." Voice. Susan Coleman is the voice of the Cancer Society. President Kennedy was the voice of space era. He said, "I have a dream that one day an American will be placed on the moon and will be returned safely." And it happened. His dream, his vision, his revelation came true, not in his lifetime, but it came true. Martin Luther King was the voice of the civil rights movement. He said, "I have a dream that one day my children will be counted not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their hearts." John the Baptist, when they asked who he was, he said, "I am the voice of one crying into the wilderness, prepare ye a way for the Lord." A person can come to the place in their life where they develop voice. Gloria Rowdy, a covenant member here, she has voice. She found that she can write cards. I get carded every year on my birthday from Gloria Rowdy. She sends me a birthday card, and I say, "I just got carded. I'm 66 years old, but I got carded, you know." Barbara Butts, another member here of longstanding, she knows flowers. She used to come and do the landscaping at the church because she knew how to make things beautiful. You have voice, but God has to come to you and say, "Let my people go." Pharaoh is the picture of an antichrist who is holding the people of Israel in their chains as slaves, and your sins do not want you to follow your voice, and you're chained up because when the voice comes, "Let my people go," you're like the Pharaoh of Egypt who hardens his heart. Now, God gave Moses this voice to go to Pharaoh, and then he even tells Moses that the Pharaoh is going to say no. Just because you find your voice, it does not mean that you are going to have an easy life. Because 9 times Moses went before Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," and he laughed at him. And the people of Israel were angry with him. But finally, he said, "Let my people go." And God delivered them by the power of his right hand. I had to start Shoeman water projects. And I knew that God was calling me, but I didn't know how. The card that he played left a question mark ahead of us. And when you're looking for your voice, you detect your voice according to the cards that are played to you. And one card was played with John Kahumba. He was a student at Missouri Baptist College. Oh, by the way, in voice, I got to meet Stan Musial, and I got to see his bat. I saw his bat, and it didn't have nicks and cuts all over it. He had one black spot in the center of his bat by the Louisville Slugger where he hit every pitch. He was in the zone. And when you find your voice, you are in the zone. And it doesn't matter who stands with you or who stands against you, because if God is for you, who can be against you? And so, anyway, John Kahumba comes. He's almost out of status. He's about to be deported back. He had wired his money here. His friend Jessica took his money and hid it. He put John into the basement and said, John, a black man in America, in St. Louis, will be arrested if you're walking down the street. And so John was afraid to go out. And now he's about to be deported, and Jessica gets to keep his money. And he comes to me and he says, will you help me? A card has just been played. And I'm thinking, how in the world do I help this man? 3 minutes go by. Not a word is said. And finally I said, John, your problems are so large. He's thinking, I've come to see the wrong man. But I know my problems are so large. I'm talking to the wrong man. And then I said, but John, we have a God who is bigger than your problems. And we went to work, got his paperwork in order, helped him to get a job, and then we began to make mission trips to Kenya. And now, in 2007, he was running for a member of parliament and was assassinated. And I think my time in Kenya is over. And we had shipped 30,000 pounds of shoes to Kenya, gave them to orphans and refugees. We had taken a team of medical surgeons over from Washington University. We had helped start 2 orphanages. And by the way, this year, from one of those orphanages was started, our first high school graduated and is now going to college. Since that time when we started, we have collected 4 million pounds of shoes. We've kept them out of the landfill, put them on people's feet, financed 5 drilling rigs, drilled over 330 wells, and providing clean drinking water to 500,000 people. All because one day a card was played and said, will you help John? And I said, yes. And the small private victory then led to a much larger victory. But before you can have a public victory, you have to have a small private victory. When I was a pastor at New Hope Baptist Church, I gave this guy a recommendation for a job, and he didn't show up. So I went to see the guy. He was asleep. I got a bucket of water and threw it on him. He said, why'd you do that? I said, you're supposed to be at work. You have a love affair with your mattress. You will never have a public victory unless you first have the private victory of getting out of bed, taking a shower, and going to work. And I'm not going to come over here and pump oxygen into you and pump blood through your veins. You've got to get up and go. We first have to have the private victory, and then we will have a public victory. And now I get to show you a video, if it can cue up. I'm now 66 years old, and I've had a total knee replacement this year. I've had rotator cuff surgery this year. I have a condition called dystonia. And Sam, I'll tell you what, I'll put $10 down that I can beat any one of your youth group on a game of horse. Yes. I want you to know I'm old. But because I have a vision before me of providing water to people in Kenya, I can do more in my remaining years than I've been able to do in all of my previous years combined. And when the people of Israel came out of Egypt, the women went to their neighbors and they plundered their hand, because God begins our life with the end in mind. They came out of Egypt and plundered the land. And I do believe that Baldwin Baptist Church was conceived in the mind of God. And everything that is had to be born twice. Once in the vision, once in the revelation, and then into reality. And the greatest days of Baldwin Baptist Church are before you. They are not behind you. You can do more in the future than you have done in your accumulated past. Is the video ready? Because I've delivered my best line. I'm George the Shoeman. I turn used shoes into drinking water, and we are always seeking solutions to global water poverty. We collect about 1 million pounds of used shoes every year. We keep them out of the landfill. We collect them from the schools, church, different places. We collect the shoes. We export the shoes to South America, Haiti, and also to Kenya. There, they go to a roadside shoe stand where it creates another job. The man is an entrepreneur. He has bought these shoes. He takes them to the roadside shoe stand. And then there are people who do not have shoes. They cannot afford to buy new shoes, but they can buy these shoes for pennies on the dollar, or they can barter and get shoes for their feet. And believe me, a pair of shoes is a very valuable gift to have. Off of the export of the shoes, we make money, and then we buy drilling equipment and water purification systems, and we bring clean water to people. In October, we took a trip to the Community Primary School outside of Nairobi, Kenya. The purpose of going there was to drill for clean water. When we got there, the students were very gracious. They sang a song to us, and then they ran and they got their buckets. They picked up their buckets and we walked to the river, but there was no water in the river. So we walked down to a sandbar and they dug 4 feet down into the sand, and then they got water. This is the filthiest water you've ever seen. This water was not safe for human consumption. It was a sad situation. It took us 2 years to collect the shoes and collect the money, but we drilled a 500-foot well and they have water on their campus. It's great elation. They smile, they jump up and down. Grandma got in under the test pumping with her full dress and everything, got her first shower. It was a day, a hallelujah day. It was a wonderful day. And now because they have plenty of water, then the government is talking to them about building a high school on their own property, but they're also going to build dormitories so other people can walk in and go to high school. So it's furthering the education. The kids have a universal language. It's called a smile. One of my favorite parts of the trip was when we were handing out soccer balls to them, and the kids ran and played, and they played soccer in their bare feet on stone ground. They had never seen a Frisbee before, and we would throw them the Frisbee, and they had no concept that they were supposed to catch it. So it would hit them in the chest or hit them in the head. So we'd have to teach them to throw, and then we'd have to teach them to catch. They love to wear my hat. They're enamored with my hat. They were singing after the water came in, and they kept singing, "We have no way to pay you, but bless you, bless you." I said, that's enough. I do this because I can do nothing else. Sometimes you do something just because it's the right thing to do. Go to my website, shoemanwater.org, and you can get a shoe kit, start a shoe drive in your school, your church, your civic club. As an employer, you can collect shoes, or you can make a donation online, and it's a tax-deductible donation. A Shoeman Water moment will take you out of the river, put you in a classroom, provide health and hygiene. You can help make a Shoeman Water moment possible. Would you come up here and help me a minute? Yeah. I like that shirt. That's a good-looking shirt. What is your name?
Oscar.
Oscar. I'm George the Shoeman. Have you had a good time?
Yeah.
All right. When I was meeting those kids, I tried to shake their hand, but they were shy and they pulled back. And I'd try to shake their hand and they would pull back. And so finally, one of them wanted to touch the skin, and they touched the skin. Then they wanted to feel the hair on my head. They wanted to do that. And then one went like this. They wanted to know if the white would wear off. They called me the white nose, and they wanted to know if I was the witch doctor. But finally, I got to shake their hand. And then I'd pull him into me, and I'd give him a pat on the back. And then I'd give him a Dutch rub on his head. And they didn't know what that meant. And at the end of the week, I got to give out the soccer balls. And then there was an interpreter there. And so I got to do it again. I said, when my daddy wanted to tell me that he loved me or wanted to be my friend, he would shake my hand. Then my daddy would tell me he wanted me to know that he was proud of me, and he'd pat me on the back. And then my daddy would want to tell me, but he didn't have words. He'd give me a Dutch rub on the head. And so I gave him a Dutch rub on the head. And people will always forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And then before the end of the day, every kid was getting a Dutch rub on their head. Thank you, Oscar.
Yep.
Now God is saying to you, you need a private victory. You have hatred, hard feelings, bitterness, unforgiveness, lust, pornography. All of the sins of Egypt are inside of you. And Moses is speaking, let my people go. Lisa was there. We went to a medical center. They had no medicine. They had nothing. A bus pulled up. They pushed a pregnant woman off. Lisa delivered that baby with no water, no receiving blanket, no crib, no cradle, no suction device, and 20 minutes later it happened again. And I said to myself, I have to do something. I have to surrender myself. I have to surrender my own ego. On this movie, the girl at the end, Joy, she attended that school when she was a kid. And for 40 years, she had been looking forward to bringing water to her school. She did not give up on her vision, and now her vision has come true. God's speaking to you about the conditions of your heart. Moses, or Pharaoh, was the personification of evil that resides with our sins and captivates us to our sins and does not want to let us go. But you need to have a private victory and let it go. Surrender it and have a private victory. And your private victory will come again and again and lead you to your voice. Let my people go. So if God is speaking to you today, as we have this stanza of invitation, we have this call of dedication. I invite you to lay it down and let it go. Won't you stand, please?